Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how to decide whether breastfeeding, or to give you some thoughts to think about so that you can decide whether you are going to breastfeed, um, pump to nurse, or pump to bottle feed, or you're just going to go formula feeding. Um, what is right for you? Well, for those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself first before we get started. I am Amanda. I am super passionate about empowering you as a woman and as a mom as you walk through your pregnancy and childbirth experiences, because we are super powerful when we have knowledge and we have experience on our side. And by sharing my experience and sharing my knowledge, I help educate you so that you can make the decisions that are right for your family. And together we can change generations by just educating and sharing our knowledge with each other. So that's why I'm here. I hope you find this information very helpful to you on your journey, and that maybe it helps you to think about things that you've never considered before. So let's get into it. So today, how to decide if breastfeeding, pumping, formula is right for you. What's right for you? Well, first of all, that is completely up to you. There is nobody who can tell you what is right for you but you. So be empowered in knowing that whatever decision you make, it is the right decision for you, and you don't have to defend that to anybody. So that being said, I am a breastfeeding mom. I breastfed all 4 of my children. I'm still breastfeeding my 2-year-old, my youngest. And so I've been breastfeeding for 8 years this month. 8 years this month. And yes, I had little breaks in between children, but in 8 years, I had 4 children. So you can imagine there was not very long gaps between my breastfeeding and having a newborn start again. I highly support breastfeeding because of the benefits that the baby gets. You pass on antibodies through your breast milk, antibodies that build their immune system. So when they're born, their immune system is not intact. Their gut isn't fully formed, which means that their immune system is not fully functional. And so if we're able to pass on immunity to our children through our breast milk, then in my opinion, that is the best option. That being said, I know how hard it is. I know that without the support of my husband, I would have never made it through breastfeeding. And so I understand the struggles that women go through. And let me tell you something. If it makes you uncomfortable to breastfeed, I get it. For some people, it can be. And I was not one of those people. I had no problem breastfeeding. I still breastfeed wherever we go. It's never fazed me. And I've actually never had anybody say anything to me. So it's not ever been an issue. But I know that for some, it makes them uncomfortable. And so I understand that. And there's ways to go about doing it that keep it private, keep it to your comfort level. And I fully support you in that. If you want to go the route of exclusively pumping and bottle feeding, man, you're my hero. I will say this. I think to me, that is harder than breastfeeding, because it takes a lot of work and dedication to sit down and pump and be on a schedule to pump to feed your child. I pumped my youngest 2 had to go to a sitter, so and I had to return to work. So I did pump while I was at work, and I brought milk home. But I didn't exclusively pump to bottle feed my kids. But if it wasn't for the fact that I could take those breaks at my job, and I was able to do that, if I was at home, I would have never done it. With my last two, I hardly ever had a stash of milk, because I didn't make it a priority to pump. Like, I was like, that was a lot of work for me to take on. But to those of you who do choose that, oh my gosh, you seriously are my hero, because that took so much dedication, so much diligence, and so much like effort on your part. And I want you to know that like I look up to you. I honestly do, because I myself probably couldn't have done it. And so I want to encourage you, if that's the route you choose to go, then by all means do it. I, for one, don't like bottles. I know that sounds silly, but for me, like, I can pick up my kids and go. And it's been that way for years, right? Like, I could just pick up my kids and go. And it wasn't like, oh, where's the bottle? Like, I didn't have to worry about any of that. I just took myself and went. And I think that's why I liked breastfeeding so much, is that it was less for me to think about, less cleanup too. If I wasn't pumping, I didn't have to clean up my pump. I didn't have to clean up the bottles. I didn't have to freeze it and have a freezer full of milk that may not ever get used. And I did donate milk. Don't think I ever wasted milk. I donated milk several times throughout my journey. And for those of you who just, breastfeeding is not something that you look forward to, or it's not part of your journey, and you choose to formula feed, that's okay too, because your baby needs to be fed. And I believe fed is best, because we don't want to not nourish our babies just because we don't want to breastfeed. And don't ever feel pressured to breastfeed or do it under pressure, because you'll resent it. It needs to be something that you feel in your gut. I strongly believe that. That was one of my biggest things. I wanted to breastfeed so bad. That was actually my biggest fear when I was pregnant, was that I wouldn't be able to. And now I've nursed for 8 years, and I'm super proud of that. Just because that was my biggest fear. And if you are wanting to breastfeed and you're struggling, there are options to get help and support that can help you and your baby for better breastfeeding experience. So reach out to your La Leche League and your certified lactation consultants. Reach out to them. Connect with your mom friends who have breastfed in the past. Ask them their experiences. Ask them for their tips and tricks. And ask them for support, because I'm telling you, you're not alone in the struggle. Like I said, I would not have made it without my husband. I would not have. I mean, literally, with our first, there were times within those first few weeks that we were standing in the middle of our living room. He was holding her to my chest because I could not physically hold her because it hurt. And once we got past that, like, your body's adjusting to that. Once we got past that, I never had a problem again. But that, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have made it. So, and if you formula feed, know that you have options. Look at all the formula. I know that formula can get expensive. You can actually make your own formula at home that is better for your baby and better for their gut as well. So if you're interested in learning more about that, look up goat milk formula and you will find recipes. And if you want more help, reach out to me. I have a friend who has made hers for years. Actually, I have several friends who have made it over the years. And so while I didn't have personal experience with it, I have friends I can connect you with. So if you've what I want you to get out of this though is to think about, what does it mean to you? Do you want, and let me tell you this, it doesn't matter how you feed your baby, you will bond with your baby. So it's not, I do not want to use that as like a layer of guilt or shame, because you will, or I don't want you to take it as a layer of guilt or shame on your decision, because whatever you choose, it's what's right for you. And there's no judgment in that. You have to just ask yourself, like, what is it in your gut, in your heart, and in your soul that you want? Think about it. Don't, I just ask that you don't take anything off the table without considering all of your options. Maybe you are like me and weren't really exposed to people who breastfed. I had nobody around me who breastfed. I had nobody to glean anything from. My mom didn't breastfeed. So it was like a whole new, like I was learning for my generation, right? Like I was learning for myself, and I was learning to pass it on to my children, right? But I didn't know anything. And so I did it just on what, little I knew just from the idea of breastfeeding. So whatever your choice is, it's the right one for you. Just consider all your options and make the right decision. Make the decision that's right for you. I hope you found this, um, I hope you found this helpful, enlightening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're in my group, thank you for being there. I hope you found this helpful. If you're not in my group already, you can find me at Open Minded and Empowered Birthing Mamas on Facebook. And I will